This is a movie about the journey of a young girl Gerda as she braves the challenges coming her way to free her family and the other magicians from the king's Mirrorlands prison. The movie begins with the admiral overseeing his men in the ice lands as they search for the magical portal that leads to the evil Snow Queen. As it happens, King Harold almost lost his son when the Snow Queen froze him, so now he harbors resentment toward anyone with a connection to magic. Being a firm believer in science and technological progress, he could not care less about the magicians of his province. When the admiral brings him the magic portal, he is warned by the court magician that this door leads to the prison of the Snow Queen, known as the Mirrorlands. The king forces the magician through the portal as his test subject, and when he fails to return, the king comes up with an evil scheme to get rid of all the magicians once and for all. Meanwhile, we see the protagonist Gerda, who is a kind gentle girl, living happily with her parents and brother Kai. They make a humble living by selling magical trinkets and goods. The only thing that troubles Gerda is that she has no magical powers, unlike the rest of her family members who are magicians. Gerda goes to a famous 10th generation magician named Lilith to seek her help in fixing her, but Lilith tells her to come back with 10 dinars and she will solve her problem in a jiffy. Gerda rushes back to the family shop where she grabs her money bank with the help of her pet ferret named Luda. Just as she is about to head back to Lilith with 10 dinars, her father comes up, showing his latest creation, a magical antique mirror. He seems a little worried about the money as things are not looking too good. He leaves to create more trinkets and Gerda decides to pitch the mirror to the next customer so she can make Lilith's fees. Suddenly, the door opens and an old lady enters who is amused to find this magic goods shop. She seems very intrigued by the magical mirror, but her retirement money cannot cover such luxuries, so she turns back toward the door. Being the kind-hearted girl she is, Gerda could not find it in herself to turn the poor old lady away, so she gives the mirror to her as a gift. When her father returns, she shows him the 10 dinars she had earlier taken out from her money bank and tricks him into believing that she sold the mirror for a good price. It makes her father so happy, and he believes good days are coming. He asks her to bring her brother Kai to join them for dinner since it calls for a celebration. Meanwhile, King Harold comes up with the plan of tricking all the magicians of his kingdom by announcing a fake magic competition where the best magician will be rewarded with lots of riches. Magicians from far and wide show up at the castle where they are told that the king awaits them in the magic hall behind this magical door. This is a ruse to get the magicians to walk through the portal to Mirrorlands from where no one can ever return back. Gerda's family also heads to the court, leaving her in charge of the shop. Suddenly, the old lady from before rushes to Gerda to warn her of the king's evil plan. First, Gerda brushes it off politely, but when the old lady tells him that the source of this top-secret information is her son who is a royal guard, she believes her and rushes toward the palace to warn her family. However, she is just a little too late, and she sees her family cross the portal in front of her eyes. She darts toward the portal but collides head-on, as it does not let her pass through since she does not possess magic. The king has her put in jail along with her pet Luda since he cannot have anyone sabotaging his devious plan of banishing all the magicians. When his son, the prince, protests, he promises him that he will let Gerda go once his mission is complete. Meanwhile, the Snow Queen has tried everything in her capacity to escape but to no avail. When the clueless magicians keep showing up, they finally figure out that they were fooled by the king into this trap. The magicians unite and try to come up with a plan to escape. Despite being a villain in the past, the Snow Queen agrees to team up with them in return for having her prophecy completed. One of the magicians helps separate the Snow Queen's phantom from her body and it goes to visit Gerda in the dungeons to seek her help. Gerda wakes up from her sleep, mistaking the Snow Queen for her mother, but when she comes to her senses, she is astounded to find her old rival in her cell. The Snow Queen informs her of the treacherous plans of the king and asks for Gerda's help, as everyone in the Mirrorlands is counting on her. Gerda is not sure if she can trust the Snow Queen who has caused some damage in the past, but the Snow Queen assures her she is only here to assist the magicians, including her parents and Kai. She breaks open the lock and sets Gerda free. Gerda finds out that the magician Lilith she was looking up to for fixing her magic, was actually just a phony non-magical person, held in one of the cells. Gerda escapes the dungeons despite Lilith calling the guards on her, with the Snow Queen by her side, who is invisible to everyone except Gerda. She bumps into the prince, who guides her into a secret passage in the castle, letting her escape from the guards. The Snow Queen is in awe of the fact that everyone is always ready to help Gerda, whether humans or trolls. Together, they decide to pay a visit to the Troll King because he is the only one who has a key to the Mirrorlands. They make their way to a shark zeppelin while dodging the guards. Gerda asks Alfida, the love interest of Kai who is also the air captain, to help her escape so she can get to the king of the trolls to save her family. Alfida flies them away but they are chased by the admiral and his men. Despite several attempts, the royal guards fail at taking them down and Gerda and Elfinda ascend to the clouds on their balloon ship. The next morning, they reach the village of the trolls, but something seems off. It's like they are trying to evacuate. When Gerda and Alfida get to the throne room, the Troll King informs them that King Harold has declared war against them and that the only way to save themselves is to retreat underground. Gerda asks him for the key to the Mirror Lands, which alerts the trolls, as they would happily choose living underground than being frozen by the Snow Queen. Gerda informs him of the evil king's doing and promises them that the Snow Queen will not harm them. The Troll King senses the Snow Queen in the hall and remembers how great of a ruler she was before she went dark and evil. So he agrees to help them, on the condition that this will be the last time the trolls ever helped the humans. Gerda, Alfida, Snow Queen, the Troll King, and ORM the Troll head out from the Troll Village and they all realize the Snow Queen is actually present with them in some ghost form. Gerda asks the Snow Queen why she chose her for rescuing everybody since she has no magic. The Snow Queen reminds her that a child born in a magician family is never giftless. It is just that there has never been a proper need in Gerda's life up till now to yield her powers, as she was born in the year of the dragon. They reach the Lake of the Trolls, which is said to hold magical powers. The Troll King summons the Queen of all Mirrors with the help of King Eric's amulet and she opens up a portal by the lake so the magicians can be set free. Suddenly, the king and his fleet arrive and he orders them to demolish the portal so the Snow Queen cannot escape. Kai barely manages to escape through the portal as the royal guards open fire. They run for their lives till they get to a safe spot, but in doing so, the Troll King gets mortally wounded. He entrusts Gerda with the amulet while he prepares to cross over to the next realm, but the Snow Queen uses her magic to bring him back and orders him to be rushed to a nearby hospital. Back at the Mirror Lands, Gerda's parents are worried sick about where Kai ended up, but when the sorceress reveals he joined Gerda, they all rejoice and their hopes live on. Meanwhile, the king and his men drain the Troll Lake and collect various magical artifacts that King Harold needs to study and then discard it. With the help of a clumsy guard, the king is able to retrieve an artifact shaped like a heart that emits some sort of energy. He orders it to be put in a special box and wonders how an ordinary girl with no power has been able to escape prison, open a magic portal and find the Troll Lake all on her own. He is sure she has company, and he decides to take down whoever comes in his way of banishing magic once and for all. They depart for the castle, followed closely by Gerda and the others, but when Gerda spots Rollin, a previous mischief maker, she asks Alfida to help her rescue him or he will be eaten by the molten lava. In doing so, the king's fleet gets away and now they will have to come up with another way to procure the sacred water of the lake to open the portal via the amulet. To their horror, the barrels are emptied in front of their eyes into the vast ocean. Rollin proves himself useful in retrieving Alfida's ship so the others decide to trust him. The Snow Queen flies over to the castle to find one barrel being drained into a pond in the royal courtyard. Meanwhile, the rest reach the floating city of the pirates, where Alfida reunites with her mother. The next morning, the pirates attack the city in an attempt to distract the royal fleet, while Gerda and the others make their way into the castle. However, they end up being caught by the king's guard and sent to prison, with Gerda and Rollin locked in a separate tower. Gerda is devastated that she will never see her family again, but Rollin reminds her that despite not having magical powers, she is the strongest person he has ever met who never fails to show kindness and bravery. As it starts raining, they flood their tower and escape to the courtyard, where Gerda activates the amulet of King Eric with some leftover water but is stopped by King Harold and his men yet again. Rollin transforms into his fire-wielding self and scares the guards away. The king, however, is prepared, and he transforms into a giant robot and manages to subdue Rollin. This triggers Gerda and she finally finds it in herself to tap into her dragon power, hurling King Harold away. She engages in a fight with the king, and when she realizes she is invincible, she destroys his robot. As a last attempt, the king tries to blow up the portal but is stopped by his son, who opens his eyes to the fact that he is no different from the Snow Queen he fears so much. With that, the prince goes through the portal, leaving the king desperate to open up the doorway. He begs for mercy and asks Gerda to continue her mission. In the end, Gerda opens up the portal with the amulet of King Eric, and all the prisoner magicians are set free. The sorceress tells Gerda that she is the only one who can set the Snow Queen free, which she does in a heartbeat. The king apologizes to his magical son, and peace is restored everywhere.